Today we're going to be covering the Seattle Seahawks 2025 preview, courtesy of Warren Sharp's outline here. We're going to be kind of reacting to this and seeing just what the Seahawks might be cooking up this season when year two of Mike McDonald and his crew. We do have a new offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak. Is that the son? Yeah, that must be. Clint Kubiak is going to be the new offensive coordinator. A lot of moves this season for the Seahawks. Their projected win total is 7.5. Last year they were 10-7 and missed the playoffs. But some key people that they lost. Actually, first we got to look at their schedule. One of the things that we like to look at and point out is the rest advantage and disadvantage throughout the season. Seattle has 5 games with rest advantages, with only one game at rest disadvantage. So that is a very favorable schedule. Net, that's 4 games with rest advantage. That's good if you're a Seahawks fan. But they open up home against San Francisco. Not going to be an easy game. You guys already know I want to be on San Francisco. That's the play of the year. The play of the year of the century. San Francisco week 1. Then they got to go out to Pittsburgh. Home against the Saints. Away at the Cardinals. Home again. Look at this. I remember this now. I was looking at their schedule. They basically play home, away, home, away, home, away. Like, they only have they don't even have back-to-back home games. Look at this. Home, away, home, away, home, away, home, bye, away, home, away, home, away, home. Oh, no, they do have back-to-back home games here once, but then they finish the season away. Oh, that's tough, too. You got to fly out to Carolina, then week 18, you got to go down to San Francisco. That's interesting how they did the schedule. I guess it was like, hey, we're going to make you do this home, away stuff, but we'll give you at least 5 games with rest advantage. So maybe that negates some of it. Key players they lost. Obviously, we know they lost Geno Smith to the Raiders, and DK Metcalf got traded to the Steelers, and they bring in Sam Darnold, of course, to be their quarterback this year. Something interesting that I read through this is that we got to keep an eye on is it might not be the best move that they did there with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold had a great year with the Vikings last year. There might be a reason why Sam Darnold had a good season with the Vikings, and I don't think Seattle is going to be able to produce those same results because of their offensive line. We will get into that, though. Sporting says, can the Brewers keep winning? Thinking run line today. I don't know, man. They're hot. It's usually good to bet on those hot teams. Some other guys they lost were Sean Jenkins, George Fant, Tyler Lockett. Recently, it was after this thing got published this year. Noah Fant's gone. Yeah, they a lot of change in Seattle, but they did in free agency sign Sam Darnold. They got Cooper Kupp, old man Cooper Kupp coming home to Seattle. He played at Eastern Washington. And they also got DeMarcus Lawrence from the Cowboys. So good move. I mean, Seattle's defense has always been good. That's one thing that's going to keep them in games this season is that defense. We'll see about their offensive line. We'll get into it. They also signed Drew Lock, be a backup quarterback, and then MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I was wondering where he ended up. He is in Seattle. That's kind of crazy. Think about it. You signed your quarterback and your backup quarterback in the same offseason. That's wild. That's wild. Players they drafted in the first round. This was a stretch. You need to beef up your offensive line. And so you go and get a guy from FCS school, North Dakota State, I think it was. North Dakota State. They take Gray Zabel. We'll see. Seattle is pretty good at doing these reaches of some of these unknown guys. But in the second round, they had 2 picks. They took a safety, Nick Emanowari, and tight end Elijah Aroro out of Miami. And then in the third round, the big splash that they did, they took Jalen Milroe, the future of the franchise. Jalen Milroe. Looked pretty good in the preseason so far. Very athletic. Defensive tackle Riley Mills, wide receiver Torrey Horton out of Colorado. They had a bunch of 5th and 6th and 7th round picks, so just a bunch of guys there. They're hoping one of those guys can pan out. But offensive line is a need, and they did draft one, two guards, and an offensive tackle. So we'll see. Maybe one of those guys can pan out for the Seahawks. Grass guy says Metcalf to the Steelers. Yes, Metcalf got traded to the Steelers, and then the Steelers turned around and signed him to a $33 million a year contract. He got paid. Seattle's ushering in yet another new era of football. For nearly a decade, Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson anchored one of the more stable and successful franchises in the NFL. However, it's been kind of a carousel. As you see, they have 2023, 2024, and now this year, different head coach, quarterback, and offensive coordinator combinations there. Let's see. Although Seattle has changed things at those key positions, searching for answers to get back to where their floor was, making the divisional round, there's one thing that hasn't changed recently. And so one thing that could, once again, prevent them from reaching their goals unless it significantly improves. And that's the offensive line, specifically how it's built. Seattle spending by year of offensive line. This is crazy. So they're 28, 30, 32, and 30. So the last two seasons, they're dead last in the league in spending on their offensive line. We've seen a lot of these bad teams be at the bottom here when it comes to spending with the offensive line. And you kind of get what you pay for. I mean, look at Chicago. Ben Johnson, first thing he did when he got to Chicago is like, hey, I need a good offensive line like I had in Detroit. And he went out and spent money. It also was not spending on the offensive line. It results of consistently terrible performance and critical. I mean, you can look at these. They're consistently there at the bottom of the league in all these metrics for offensive line. Among the 34 QBs with at least 275 dropbacks, Smith was pressured at the number 3 highest rate. Even though his 2.75 seconds to throw was just number 12 highest in the NFL, only 34% of Smith's dropbacks lasted 3+ seconds, which was number 19 and less than the league average. On early downs, only 32% of Smith's dropbacks lasted 3+ seconds. Darnold was the opposite of Smith last year. On early downs, and an insane 47% of Darnold's dropbacks lasted 3+ seconds. And that's where we're going to get into the heart of this thing. Darnold was protected by a good offensive line there in Minnesota. He was able to hold on to the ball damn near 50% of the time for 3 or more seconds. He's not going to be able to do that in Seattle. We might see the Jets, Sam Darnold, in Seattle early on. That is going to be a concern if that line can't protect him because he clearly needs time to let the play develop and make his throw. That's right, Grass Guy. It's always about the offensive line, 100%. So that was number 1 in the NFL by a mile. A whopping 45% of Darnold's total dropbacks lasted 3+ seconds, also ranking number 1 in the NFL by a mile. His average time to throw was 3 seconds, which ranked number 3 highest in the NFL. It was only behind Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson. And those guys can hang on the ball because they got legs to be able to scoot around. Sam Darnold, not so much. Seattle's average ATS line was 0 last year. That's interesting. Their straight up record was 10-7 last season, but their ATS was 6-10. Not a good ATS team. As a favorite last season on the road, they were 1-4 against the spread. That's not good. They're 2-7 at home against the spread. Usually, you think of Seattle, you think of home field advantage. Not so great. I love these little stats here, though. A little something interesting to look at. They haven't been, in the last 3 seasons, the Seahawks haven't been above 500 against the spread. Not good. Their season win total is 7.5, and they're favored in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. All right, so they're favored 7 games for the look ahead lines, and their season win is at 7.5, so right where it's where they're expected to be. Yesterday we covered the Ravens. Their win total is 11.5, and they're favored in 15 of their games, which is interesting. Yes, look at the Bengals exactly. Darnold play style invites too much pressure, but he played behind a much better line last year in Minnesota. That said, a whopping 29% of Darnold's incompletions were because he was being pressured last year, which is the 5th highest rate in the NFL. I mean, so this dude, when he gets pressured, can't complete the ball. And we're sitting here, he's about to play behind possibly the worst offensive line in the league. I don't think it's going to go well for Seahawks this year. So it's safe to assume Darnold will be pressured a lot more this year, which means he'll be throwing a lot more total incompletions this year if he gets pressured more often, if he can stay healthy out there too. The Vikings offensive line ranked number 2 in pass block win rate last year. Welcoming a quarterback worse against pressure than Smith and more prone to holding onto the ball than Smith sounds like a scary proposition. That's why it is on the inexpensive offensive line to make large strides and perform much better than last year. Won't be easy, but the Seahawks added additional personnel to assist. Last year, Charles Cross and Laken Tomlinson were the only linemen to play 17 games. No other player appeared more than 11 games. Tomlinson left in free agency. Team signed Josh Jones and then used their 18th overall pick on Gray Zabel. Anthony Bradford was graded as the 74th best guard in Pro Football Focus. Oh, that's not good. Right tackle Abraham Lucas was ranked 57th in that. Oluwatimi started 8 games at center for Williams after Williams retired and ranked 36th in pass protection. Essentially to the right of left tackle Cross is a rookie guard from North Dakota State and a combination of center, right guard, and right tackle who were individually horrific in pressure rate among their peers last year. That indeed is a scary proposition for Darnold, which is why it will be incumbent on the new offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, to get creative and get the most out of his new quarterback. Kubiak and Darnold previously worked together in 2023 with the 49ers. At the time, Kubiak served as the team's passing game coordinator while Darnold was the backup to Brock Purdy. Kubiak's approach often includes under-center dropbacks, play-action passes, and pre-snap motion. This style is designed to create a versatile and unpredictable offense aiming to keep defenses off balance, which is what Seattle was missing last year. Ooh, here we go. Here's why you should bet under 7.5 wins for the Seattle Seahawks for the 2025 season. Despite Seattle's solid pass defense, they failed to force many turnovers, taking the ball away just 24 times for a turnover margin of -6. The Seahawks need to see more production from their tight ends in 24. Noah Fant has not become the weapon that they hoped when they traded for him, tallying just 1 touchdown on 48 receptions last season, and now he's gone. He's not even there. Perhaps second-round pick Elijah Aurora can emerge as a weapon. Seahawks running backs rush for an average of just 95.7 yards per game, ranking 28th in the league. Kenneth Walker missed another 5 games last season, but his production saw a dip with just 3.7 yards per carry, which ranked 40th out of 46 backs who finished 2024 with 100 or more touches. Seattle rushers registered just 1,627 yards combined last season. Not good. But if you're optimistic, here's why you should bet over 7.5 wins for the Seattle Seahawks in the 2025 season. The offensive line was a glaring issue for the Seahawks in 24, partially due to the frequency of injuries, but John Schneider made several moves throughout the offseason to remedy this. They spent 3 of their 11 draft picks on linemen, the most notable of whom was North Dakota State guard Gray Zabel at 18th overall. Seahawks are in an interesting position in terms of the quarterback conversation after trading Geno Smith to Vegas in the offseason. They signed Sam Darnold in free agency after breakout season in Minnesota, in which he threw for 4,300 yards and 35 touchdowns. If you can play at the same level again, Darnold will be an upgrade. Seattle's pass defense was a game-changing factor for the team in 24. They sacked opposing quarterbacks 45 times last season. Even when opponents were able to get the ball away, the Seahawks only allowed an average of 6.9 yards per passing attempt. So they got a good defense. Let's see. But former OC Ryan Grubb used play action just the number 27th highest rate on early downs in the first 3 quarters last year. He similarly ranked 27 in pre-snap motion usage. In Minnesota last year, Darnold was accustomed to ranking 14th in play action and 14th in pre-snap motion. He ranked top 10 improvement with play action opposed to when passing without play action. We'll get more play action in Seattle. Yeah, you got to be able to run the ball to be able to do play action, though. And we just talked about how they struggled to run the ball last year. But the offensive line must hold up to give him time to throw. Speaking of Kubiak, a story that should give Seahawks fans hope relates to his time last year in New Orleans, specifically near the end zone. In 2023, with a fully healthy Derek Carr making 17 starts, the Saints ranked 14th with a 72% goal-to-go conversion rate. Kubiak over as OC in 24. Carr was out injured for weeks, and Kubiak was forced to play Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener. As a result, Kubiak ran the ball 70% of his goal-to-go snaps, the number 3 highest rate in the NFL. With creative use of Taysom Hill and a much improved goal line scheme in the goal-to-go for the season, despite being without their QB1 for many weeks, the Saints finished the season ranked number 1 in TD rate, number 2 in EPA per play, number 2 in success rate. And they were extremely efficient on early downs, number 2 in EPA per rush, and number 2 in EPA per pass. That is something to think about, too, with Taysom Hill. Kubiak was able to use Taysom Hill creatively. They might be looking at Jalen Milroe as kind of the Taysom Hill role in the red zone. Don't be surprised if we see some packages with Jalen Milroe in at quarterback when they're in the red zone. It helped to propel the Saints from a 72% TD rate in 23 to up to 90% TD rate in 24 under Kubiak. That's number 1 in the NFL. Yeah, but like, how many opportunities did the Saints have to be in the red zone last season? Not much. Last year, the Seahawks ranked 28 in TD rate in goal to go. So, I mean, room for improvement. They had an embarrassing 62.5% TD rate in goal to go situations. Seattle's worst mark since 2016. Not only did Kubiak run the number 1 most successful goal to go offenses with the Saints, despite backup QBs playing meaningful games, but he also has his own version of Taysom Hill and rookie QB Jalen Milroe. Milroe is far less experienced and not the type of tight end running back style player that Hill is, but Milroe is extremely dynamic near the end zone and a big weapon if the ball is in his hands. He closed his college career in the 94th percent mark in rushing production, had 94 design runs this past season, reportedly ran 4.4 on his pro day. While they add Milroe for a potential package near the goal line, they lose DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. After ranking near league average with 63% 11 personnel in 23, Seattle ramped up their 11 personnel usage to 77% last year. Kubiak's system is driven by 2 wide receiver sets. In fact, the Saints often used 11 personnel only 33% of snaps last year. When he called plays for Minnesota in 21, they were number 29 in rate of 11 personnel usage. Jackson Smith and Njigma will hardly ever leave the field in 25 and will be tasked with running more outside routes, particularly given the team will likely align with just 2 wide receivers over 50% of the time. That's going to be interesting to see JSN have to be on the outside more. If you're thinking of fantasy football, maybe punt on JSN this year, because I don't know how Seattle is going to plan on only running 2 wide receivers and you have JSN on one side and Cooper Kupp on the other. I don't think that's going to work out well. That's just me. Although Kupp burst on the scene like a lion with the Rams, he went out like a lamb. See what he did there? He matched a career low at 10.6 yards per catch in 24, 59.2 yards per game. His yards after catch dropped from 5.8 in 21 to 5.5 in 2022 and 5.4 in 23 and 4.0 last year. While Seattle will need Kupp to somehow discover the fountain of youth at age 32, they paid him a boatload of money too. They also need to get something more out of their ground game. On first downs last year, they ranked 29th in EPA per attempt, 26 in yards per carry, and 25 in success rate. Kenneth Walker averaged just 3.7 yards per carry, which ranked 30th in the league. All that despite facing an NFL number 22 toughest schedule for run defenses last year. So they weren't even facing tough run defenses. Let's see. Seattle's got the 13th toughest schedule, or the 13th easiest schedule this year. But last year, Seattle's first drive of the game ranked 27th in EPA per play, 23 in score rate, 30 in touchdown rate, 31 in points per drive. Not good. Overall, Seattle plays number 13th easiest schedule, but the really good news is they have the number one best overall prep and rest edge of any team this season. 4 games net rest advantage. That is crazy. It starts with the fact that Seattle plays just one game all season against an opponent who has extra time to rest and prepare for Seattle. That's home against Houston in Week 7. Other than that singular game, Seattle doesn't play another team with extra time to prepare for them. No other team in the NFL has just one game against a team with more than a week rest to prepare for them. Seattle plays 5 games against an opponent who is playing on a short week. 2 of these games, Seahawks get to play teams on short weeks after they played the Chiefs. Last year, teams went 3-12 straight up after playing the Chiefs unless they had extra rest after the game. That's something to think about. Not every one of those 5 games represents rest advantage, but the Seahawks do play 5 games with rest advantage, and the most of these games occur when the rest begins to matter, which is the middle of the season. So Week 5 and on. The game against Washington is notable because Seahawks are off a bye and Washington is on a short week. Seattle plays just one short week road game and plays just one game off a road Sunday night game. And both those disadvantaged spots pit them against a very well-known divisional opponent, the Cardinals. Seattle does not play any of the 3 games in 10 days or 4 games in 17 days, nor is their bye week negated. Lastly, in terms of overall net rest, the Seahawks are +8, number 4 best team in the NFL this year. I mean, that's one thing you got going for you if you're a Seahawks. You got this favorable schedule of rest advantage. Now you're going to be home away, but at least you have the rest advantage. Making this edge even stronger is the fact that the story was completely different last season. In 24, Seattle was a minus 14 days net rest edge, third worst in the NFL. This year, they're +8. Last year, Seattle played 6 games with rest disadvantage. This year, it's only 1. Last year, Seattle played a minus 2 net games with rest advantage. This year, it's +4. Last year, Seattle played 7 games with their opponent had over a week to rest to prepare for them. This year, it's only 1 game. Seattle went 6-2 in one-score games last year and started strong defensively with 3 straight wins over teams who weren't sure what to expect out of Mike McDaniel's defense. But it also helped that they started the year off against rookie QB Bo Nix, backup Jacoby Brissett, and backup Skylar Thompson and Tim Boyle. Oh, God. While Seahawks won 10 games last year, when you account for a 6-2 record in one-score games, and the fact that their wins came against Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, Jacoby Brissett, Skylar Thompson, Jimmy Garoppolo, Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray twice, Aaron Rodgers, and Brock Purdy, it doesn't look nearly as good. Seattle certainly will need to keep tweaking things in their core because last year's 10-7 record was deceiving. With a manageable schedule and a great rest this year, the question is whether or not Seattle is capable of stepping up in key areas to get the team back on track, because replicating last year's performance is unlikely to result in another double-digit win season. So, bottom line is, yeah, they got good rest advantage. They still have concerns at offensive line. The new offensive coordinator is going to be interesting to see if they do just run 2 wide receivers most of the time, like Kubiak likes to do. Because how is Cup and JSN gonna work on the outside? You got to be able to run the ball if you're going to want to run in a lot of play action. But the big thing there is that offensive line, not only with running the ball, but giving Sam Darnold time. We saw last year Sam Darnold averaged hanging on the ball for 3 seconds behind that Minnesota line. That was fine. But when he was pressured, he was one of the worst in the league at making completions under pressure. And with this offensive line, they better, 1, hope they stay healthy, and 2, hope they were able to give him some time. If not, it's going to get ugly real fast. Andrew G, what up? He said, no way am I ever going to assume that Sam Darnold will be good. He had a QB whisperer in Minnesota as his coach, and he also had a good offensive line. So we'll see what he'll be able to do. But that is your Seattle Seahawks 2025 NFL preview.